Are the Bengals going to actually score points this week? They're going to need to if they're going to stay in the game against the Detroit Lions. It's time for our Week 5 crossover. Locked on Lions, Locked on Bengals right now on the Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi again, everyone, and welcome into another Locked On crossover. I'm James Rapien of Locked On Bengals. He's Matt Dery of Locked On Lions, and it's a huge matchup this week. Well, at least for one team. I think Bengals fans are really down, Matt. I'm not going to lie to you, but still plenty to discuss when it comes to this matchup in today's crossover Thursdays presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Let's start with the good. Let's start with the Lions. How are things in Lions country right now? What's the biggest story when it comes to the Detroit Lions?
James, things are great. I mean, they've won 3 in a row. They feel good. I know it's the complete opposite of what you guys went through as Lions fans tuned in on Monday night to do a little scouting of the Bengals and saw that atrocity. But no, to be honest, the Lions started the year very slow. Week 1 in Green Bay was an unmitigated disaster. They played very poorly. And the Packers took it to them, and everybody started panicking. And what about the new coordinators? And, oh, my God, Frank Ragnow retired. What are we going to do at center? And the last 3 weeks, the Lions have really established their will, and it starts with the offensive line. They battered the Bears, beat up on the Ravens in Baltimore on Monday Night Football. I know you saw that. And then last week took care of the Browns. It wasn't pretty, but as you know, the Browns, as they did with the Bengals in week 1, junked it up and stayed in the game for a while. Then the Lions pulled away. But Detroit feels good. This was a game, like you said earlier in the year, you went, all right, 425 on Fox at Burrow and the Bengals. Now without him there, I think the Lions can breathe a little bit easier, but again, anytime you go on the road, it's going to be tough. And then there's some storylines here. DJ Reader coming back. David Montgomery's a Cincinnati kid. So, and the Lions have some issues at cornerback that we'll talk about.
Yeah. I think the Montgomery factor is so interesting to me, being a Cincinnati and knowing he went to Mount Healthy High School and, well, my University of Cincinnati Bearcats didn't recruit him and all those things. But there's definitely something there. You mentioned DJ Reader. How is DJ Reader overall? I know Bengals fans think about him often.
Well, you know, I talked to Dan Horde last year, the Bengals radio voice and an old Syracuse buddy of mine. And he was like, man, we miss him so much. And he hasn't had the kind of impact maybe on the field. I think last year was banged up a lot and the numbers kind of, the PFF numbers weren't great to him. He was fine. I see a better DJ Reader this year. He's healthy. He's in a contract year, obviously. And he's been kind of the leader of that interior of the defensive line with the injuries to Aleem McNeil and Levi Onwuzurike. And he just seems like such a good dude and is a force in there against the run and has been better. And I think coming back to Cincinnati this weekend for him, I think will be a nice showcase for him. And I know the Bengals have been struggling. I got to ask you, James, I mean, I know what the feeling is in Cincinnati. I can see it on your face here as we record, but do you worry more about Reader, let's say Reader and the Lions is getting after that O-line, or is it just that there's a quarterback problem there? Like, what's going on?
Man, it's everything. Yes. It really is. And what I've tried to focus on so far this week is, all right, well, what can you fix? And I do think that there are some realistic options that could be better at quarterback. Jake Browning left a ton on the field this past week. I mean, when you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and all of these other weapons, I mean, Chase Brown, and you could go on, guys that can make plays, and you're scoring 13 points in 8 quarters. And the one touchdown you've scored in those 8 quarters was garbage time when the Vikings had put in their practice squad backups. I mean, it was very much a game over type of garbage time situation. It's such I would say, demoralizing feeling. And that's what I think is interesting. As we record this, I haven't been in the locker room yet. And it's because of the Monday game, everything's kind of pushed back. How do they respond now? Because that Monday game was supposed to be their response after laying the egg in Minnesota. And I think that's what's so tough is now 48 hours removed from that Monday night debacle is it's like, all right, well, what answers do you have? Because you need them very, very quickly because you have one of the best teams in the NFL coming to Paycor Stadium on Sunday, and you were already supposed to respond, and now the competition gets tougher. In my mind, the Lions are better than what they've seen over the past couple of weeks. And yeah, they were on the road, but it looked awful. You get outscored 76-13. So they have a ton of issues. And yet I look at it and I say, all right, well, you're not going to necessarily be able to just fix the trenches, but you should be able to get more out of this offense, given the skill guys that you do have and given where the strength of this roster is. And they haven't done it over the past couple of weeks without Joe Burrow.
It's crazy because, like, it seems like yesterday you guys were in the Super Bowl. I mean, it was a lot of the same players. It was the head coach. Mm-hmm. I watched Monday night, James. I'm like, what is this? And I know they started off okay. I think they went up 3-0, but my gosh, it was, I mean, the penalties, and they didn't even accept all of them. How many penalties did they have that weren't even accepted? It was like 15 total or something.
Yeah. So at halftime, it was 11 penalties that they were called for, and 8 of them, were accepted, and they finished with more penalties than first downs. They had 4 first downs on the opening drive, 5 the rest of the game. I mean, just historically bad offense. And they have the best receiver on the planet, in my mind, right? And maybe he's second or third or whatever. But it's really, really hard to do. And that backup receiver they have, or their second receiver, however you want to say it, in T. Higgins, he's really good too, right? So they have to find a way to get those guys involved. And that's where my focus is. Like, yeah, they're a young defense. They're not going to be great. They're going to give up points and yards and things like that. The offensive line, I don't think anyone expected the offensive line to be world beaters this year. But with Jake Browning, they should still be able to score points, and they haven't. And so that's the thing where you look at Zach Taylor, the head coach, and you look at this team and you're like, all right, how do you fix this at least somewhat so you can be competitive in a game like Sunday?
It's interesting too. You mentioned before, I could see it on the screen, on our graphic there, slowing down the Lions offense. The Browns defense, really good. Really good. I mean, this past week was the first time in a while I can remember a game at Ford Field where the Lions just didn't cruise down the field on most possessions. Now, it's not every possession. There's going to be some punts. The Lions have a good one in Jack Fox, and he pins people deep. But, man, Myles Garrett and that crew, and Garrett didn't have a sack. Obviously, he kind of forced Taylor Decker to have a pretty low PFF grade. But all in all, I thought the Browns defense did all they could do. I mean, they were on the field most of the game, especially in the second half. But the Lions, I feel like, not saying they left some points on the field, but I think they will tell you they can play better offensively, and that's pretty scary with how they've been playing lately, and they did a nice job against the Ravens. So your question about slowing down the Lions, you said the Bengals defense is young. I think the Lions are ready to kind of break out again this week after this past week where they really couldn't do everything that they wanted to do. And Montgomery had 9 carries, 12 yards. That's not going to happen again, right?
I don't think so. I love the Lions offense. I love how they're built. Our everydayers know how big of a fan I was of Jahmyr Gibbs pre-draft, and Gibbs and Montgomery together. It's a heck of a 1-2 combo. You have Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, they just layers on layers. And then let's just say you contain all those guys. Well, Jameson Williams is a dude. He's a real guy. I know in that draft, it's fun. I get to share some of this knowledge now that isn't necessarily relevant to the Bengals. The Bengals had Jameson Williams as their number 1 receiver in that draft. Now, they weren't in the wide receiver market at that stage, but for the Lions to trade up for him, they weren't alone in thinking, hey, this guy's awesome. And I know they really like Jahmyr Gibbs as well. So to see those guys come to town, it's a huge challenge. And I think the Bengals, there's one clear issue that their defense needs to solve. And I don't know if they have the personnel to do it. We can dive into that in some of these matchups that are going to be really interesting and probably challenging for the Bengals coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book for a reason. And right now, well, you got to take advantage of, a $5 bet, because you can bet just $5 and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's same game parlays, live bets, live parlays. If you want to go that route, you could think of multiple different, maybe you want to parlay the Major League Baseball playoffs and combine it with an NFL game. You can do all of the above with FanDuel. They're America's #1 sports book. So again, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Today's show is also brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety picks and awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. My broadcast partner here on Locked On Bengals, Jake Lisco, drives a Mazda, and he's experienced it firsthand. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Matt, let's dive into some of these matchups. I think the reason why this Bengals defense, but my biggest issue with it, and it's not going to shock many people that have watched this Bengals team, they can't get any pressure. They cannot pressure the quarterback. Trey Hendrickson has a pass rush win rate of just over 20%. Obviously, everyone knows about Trey. He led the NFL in sacks last year. Shamar Stewart, the Bengals' first-round pick, is at 14%, but he's missed the past couple of games. No other defensive lineman in double digits from a pass rush win rate perspective, or defensive lineman for the Bengals. They've just really struggled in that area. And it's not like they're great against the run. And so when you put that together, and I look at this matchup with the Lions, if you're not going to pressure Jared Goff and you're not going to completely shut down the run, that's a pretty, it could be tough sledding against this Detroit Lions offense.
Let me ask you this. How much of that is, number one, the whole Stewart circus with the signing him and he missed time? And then how much of it is the Hendrickson circus? I mean, is it just that their sea legs aren't under them because they didn't have training camp, or what, how much of that played a role in this, or are they just not playing well?
Well, no, I think those two guys are, for the most part. I think Shamar Stewart's played about as well as you could imagine or expect of him. Now, he's only played 2 of the 4 games and got hurt at the end of that Jags game. But Trey is the only guy, and so he commands all the attention. Yeah. And the Bengals desperately need someone else, and that's why it's a big story to follow. I don't think by the time everyone sees this or listens to this on Wednesday, Thursday, that we're going to know about Shamar Stewart's status. I think he's getting closer, but and they certainly need him. But that's kind of it. You know, Joseph Osai is someone they signed hoping that he would kind of break out as relative, but be that productive defensive end across from Trey Hendrickson in his 5th season. He's a former 3rd-round pick out of Texas. They thought maybe he would be able to put it together. Miles Murphy in his 3rd season, 1st-round pick, the same year Jahmyr Gibbs was drafted by the Lions in 2023. And so they took him 28th overall. And those guys just haven't done that. They've had little flashes at times, but not enough consistency. And so you talk about that Lions offensive line getting going, and I'm like, oh man, it's that's a tough matchup there.
I mean, and that's the matchup right there. So if you're talking about, okay, what to watch, let's start there with Stewart and Hendrickson against Decker and Sewell. I mean, whoever lines up against Penei Sewell, good luck. I mean, he is the best right tackle in the game. We could argue it with other people, but I truly believe that. 2 weeks ago against the Ravens, again, I sound like I'm a PFF slappy here, but I mean, his grade, he nearly graded out at 100. I mean, that never happens. He's that good, and he's just nasty and is just so solid at that right tackle spot. And no one talks about Taylor Decker, but he hasn't practiced in weeks with a sore shoulder yet. Every Sunday he's out there and does a pretty good job. And again, held Myles Garrett without a sack. So it was the interior of that Lions offensive line that was a concern earlier in the year, but there was never a doubt, excuse me, that the tackles were going to get the job done. And I think that the matchup certainly with Hendrickson and Shamar and Osai and whoever you throw out there. I loved Miles Murphy coming out of the draft. It's obvious the Lions didn't because they had a need there and didn't take him. But the other thing to watch too on the other side is, and I mentioned before, is the cornerback situation with the Lions. DJ Reed has been a huge pickup for them, but now he's going to miss multiple weeks with a hamstring. And there's a likely chance Terrion Arnold's going to need this week off with a sore shoulder. Now, Terrion's not played well. I mean, that's a 1st-round pick that for the last 2 years, they keep saying he's coming. It's going to get better. Second half of last year was better. but he's not played well. So Amik Robertson was kind of taking some of his snaps at outside corner anyway. But now this week, you're talking about if they could get Jamar Chase and T. Higgins up and running, and they're going to go up again. You look at it and go, wait a minute. No Arnold, no Reed.
Mm-hmm.
Who's playing? Well, Amik Robertson would play one outside corner. He's really good, mostly in the slot, but can do it. Everybody saw him in week 18 last year, shut Justin Jefferson down when Carlton Davis got hurt. And then the other corner is Khalil Dorsey, who has never started an NFL game. So that's something to watch there. Do they decide, all right, where's Dorsey? Where's number 30? Do we just pick on him and see if he can play? The Lions like him. He's been a depth piece, but now he's going to be sprung into action on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's a matchup. Just you describing it. If the Bengals want to hang in this game, you have to get your stars involved. It was a real big theme for me last week. Jamar has to have one of those 12 to 15 target games. T. Higgins has got to get plenty of opportunities. And when these guys have that 6 to 8 target range and Jamar's averaging 5 yards a catch, well, you're not going to win with that. So can the Bengals take advantage of that? We'll see. I think that does give some Bengals fans some hope right there that, oh, well, the Lions are banged up in the secondary. Let me ask you this. How is their pass rush? Because there isn't much confidence in this Bengals offensive front right now.
Well, I mean, we made a mistake, James, and our listeners should be mad at us. We're 16 minutes and 36 seconds in and haven't said the words Aiden Hutchinson yet.
No doubt.
And that's a massive mistake on our parts because that dude.
Well, I knew he was coming. He's a freak.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, maybe we just teased it, but that dude is balling right now. And slow start coming back from the broken leg last year, first game against Green Bay. You're like, where is he? He was a no-show, but really the whole team was. First half of the Bears game, week 2, you're like, where's Hutch? And then all of a sudden, there he is in the second half, getting in Caleb Williams' face, forcing some bad throws, some pressures. And then the last 2 weeks, I mean, 2 sacks to Lamar Jackson. This past week, a sack on Joe Flacco, which, look, you and I could sack Joe Flacco, but strip sack and just making plays. And I mentioned this on my Tuesday show, I believe, here on Locked On Lions. I mean, he is now the difference maker. Everybody's talked about the edge rusher opposite of Aiden. And why didn't Brad Holmes go sign anybody? Why didn't Brad Holmes go draft anybody? Wait till the 6th round to take another edge. They've had Marcus Davenport. He's been hurt. Al-Qadim Muhammad has been really good as a backup, but is now filling in and starting. But it all starts with Hutchinson. If he's just on, it doesn't matter what the rest of the D-line's doing. It's going to open things up for them. But he's been an absolute monster for the last 2 weeks. And I have a feeling you're going to see the few Bengals patented false starts because they just know, 97, where's he located? And he'll be a menace for sure.
Yeah. And that's what's so interesting about this matchup is can they contain these tackles have had their issues over the past couple of weeks. And so Aiden Hutchinson is going to get his. Can you contain him enough to where you're able to get the ball to Jamar and T? And last week it was kind of the opposite. Nick Bonito is a real guy, of course.
Yeah.
But the Broncos are a bunch of guys, and it isn't one star. It isn't Myles Garrett and then the rest of the crew. There's a lot of guys that you're going to have to worry about and devote attention to, and they just win with the Lions. Yeah, you're thinking it's like the Myles Garrett treatment where it's 2 guys. Sometimes it's probably going to be 3 guys, and you just don't want him to wreck the game. That's usually what I say during Cleveland week. You don't want Myles to wreck the game. I think that's the same thing here with Aiden Hutchinson.
No question. You guys aren't running the ball at all well. I saw dead last.
Don't remind me.
Is that just because teams now are just loading the box because they know it's Browning, or is it and not Burrow, or what's going on there?
No, they have not been good. They have not been good run blocking, and that's scary too. Is it's like, all right, well, if you're not going to pass protect at a high level, which that's what these guys were brought in to do to protect Joe Burrow, and now you have Jake Browning in, and you need to lean in on the ground game a little bit more than expected. Can you? And the answer so far has been no. Now, the other day, Chase Brown did technically average 4 yards a carry, but they scored 3 points. And so how effective was he really? It wasn't that effective. It wasn't that much of a factor. And I do think that if there is any path for the Bengals to hold up against Aiden Hutchinson, but to also be consistent on offense with Jake Browning at quarterback, they have to get more out of the ground game and be more consistent and efficient. Not that they're going to run it 30 times a game. That's just not who they're built to be. But they're probably going to need to run it 15 to 20 and be effective on those 15 to 20 rushes. And that's not something we've seen so far this year, even though Chase Brown was an emerging star and they thought he was going to be one of their breakout players this season. That just hasn't been the case so far.
Crazy. Well, I mean, I think that Lions are in good shape. And like I said, DJ Reader will be motivated to come back. I don't think there's any animosity toward the Bengals, but I know that happens a lot.
Yeah.
I think there was maybe at the beginning, but I think now it's been 2 years, but you never know. Sometimes I feel sorry for the Bengals. It seems like every time they play somebody that's left, it's like, let me tell you about the ownership. It's like, here we go. Right. You heard that time and time again.
No doubt. Yeah, let's discuss maybe DJ Reader, the David Montgomery storyline, and maybe some paths to victory. I'm going to have to really outline these paths to victory for the Bengals because I'm not sure if there are many. We'll get to that coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time, well, if you're making the trip down to Cincinnati, if you're a Detroit Lions fan, or if you don't have your tickets yet, Bengals fans, and you want to go watch Sunday's game, well, Game Time is the perfect place to go. And Game Time, well, it can take the frustration out of getting tickets to all of your favorite live events. And the app gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way, backed by the Game Time guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay. I used Game Time to go to the NBA conference finals. And so, like I said, if you're making the trip from Detroit, you don't have tickets yet, don't fret. It's no big deal. It's going to be easy to find them with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON NFL. Locked On NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, Matt, when I think of paths to victory here and just things the Bengals would need to do, they got to jumpstart this offense somehow. And I naturally assume and lean on Jamar. When Joe and Jamar, when their backs have been against the wall over the past 4+ years, when they've been teammates here in Cincinnati, I've always said, well, doubt them at your own risk, because they always seem to come up big when their backs are against the wall. And obviously Joe's out. And so how do the Bengals give Jamar the opportunity? I don't even think he had the opportunity on Monday Night Football against the Broncos because he just wasn't given the targets necessary when he was open. When I went back and watched, he was open plenty. So you got to get Jamar involved. You got to be able to get him in position to be a game changer. Like if Aiden Hutchinson can be a game wrecker, Jamar Chase can be a game changer. Yeah. And so whether it's 12 to 15 targets, whether it's just a bunch of downfield targets, I don't know. But that's the first thing for me. And so what goes into that? Well, you got to make sure Aiden Hutchinson doesn't wreck it. You got to make sure that Jake Browning sees Jamar and gets him involved early. And if you do that, then maybe you can get off to a quick start, because I do think that that's going to be needed because the Lions are going to be aggressive. They're going to put up points, and they're certainly not going to be shy on going forward on fourth down.
Well, I think the best way for the Lions to stop all of that is ball control and keep the football and sustain long drives. 2 90-yard drives against the Ravens kept Lamar Jackson off the field. So You're right. The Bengals can make promises. Zach Taylor can say it all week. We got to get Jamar Chase going. He's the key. Best receiver in the game. #1 fantasy pick. T. Higgins, your tight ends. All of that sounds great. And Chase Brown too. There's good players there. But if they're not on the field, they can't score. Yep. And the Lions, I think, with Montgomery and Gibbs, that offensive line, running the football, let the clock run down. I'm not saying intentionally almost kind of just play keep away, but that is what kept Lamar Jackson off the field 2 weeks ago and gave the Lions a pathway to a win on the road on Monday Night Football. So I see that. I see ball control being key for the Lions. You're on the road, 425 game. Hey, let's run the rock and let's pound it. Montgomery's coming home. His sister's going to be in the crowd, who's had a terrible car accident a few years ago, and basically is in a wheelchair. She has not seen her brother play live, I don't think, in a long time. So an opportunity for him to come home and carry the football along with Jahmyr Gibbs, keep that clock running, has been a successful way for the Lions to do business on offense, especially with the play action passing game. So I think that's going to be there for Detroit. And then, we talked about it before, but I see a scenario where, all right, Browning back, just throw it up into the sky, play some 500 and hope for the flags. The Bengals have to hope that the side judges and back judges pick on Khalil Dorsey and go, all right, Dorsey's being handsy here. It's Jamar Chase and an unknown corner. Couple of deep shots that turn into flags are just like catches, right? So I would watch for some DPIs against Dorsey that they pick on him and see if it works.
I actually think that's a great point, because you can't get those big plays if you're not trying them and you're not pushing the ball down the field. And they do need to find a way to do that in any way they can. And that's a scenario that could play out where the defensive pass interferences are make an impact. You mentioned the run game and the ball control. The Bengals have to stop the run. I mean, that's the first thing. I talked about the pressure at the top, but given this Lions offense, if you let Jared Goff just hand it off to these guys and they're getting 5 a pop, well, it's over, because the play action is going to work and everything's going to work, and it's just going to be too tough to contain these guys. It is. And so I think stopping the run or slowing down that rushing attack for the Lions, that has to be number one. And it doesn't mean that's enough to slow down that entire offense, because Jared Goff can sling it all over. But I do think it has to start there, is you make sure that David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs just aren't running all over you, because if they do that, then it's going to open the entire offense up for this Lions team that can obviously score points in a hurry.
I hate to do it, but is there a chance Browning struggles early, the Boo Birds rain down? I mean, they wouldn't put Brett Rippin in, would they?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, and that's what's been kind of annoying to me. Like, I'm totally fine with Jake Browning starting on Sunday, but you need someone that you feel comfortable putting in at some point. And I don't think it's Brett Rippin. They have Mike White and Sean Clifford on the practice squad. I don't think that's realistic. They got here a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, Brett Rippin got here the start of September after final cuts. He wasn't even here during training camp. So it's really tough to envision any of those guys, given their experience or lack thereof, and when they got here. So no, I don't think so. But yeah, you're right about that. Like, if the game goes a certain way, I definitely think the Boo Birds will be out. And that's why when I did that game time read, by the way, I was like, oh, well, Lions fans, if you want to come down,
they'll be there.
Bengals fans, I'm not telling you not to come. I know how frustrated Bengals fans are right now. That's all.
Well, it's drivable for Lions fans to get to Cincinnati, and they will be there. Trust me. Just ask the Colts fans last year when the Lions fans invaded Lucas Oil. They'll be there. They'll be there and loud. So that would be interesting. And I know how Bengals fans feel right now, as you said, over the last 2 weeks, and there's a lot of frustration there.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think going into that last week's game, I said, oh, well, pressure was on Denver to get to 2-2. You don't want to fall to 1-3. The pressure's on the Bengals now just to look competent. As weird as that sounds at 2-2, like they've been so bad, outscored 76-13 over the past couple of games. And you're playing a team in Detroit that is among the NFL's best. And so it's a tough ask to go out there and win. It's the NFL, so you always expect to win. But man, you just got to look better than you have. And I'm not sure they're going to, but that's where I'm at ahead of Sunday's game. And I think a lot of people here in town feel the same way.
Yeah, I don't see a scenario where the Lions lose either. And it's not me being cocky or anything. Like you said,
Sure.
I just think they're the better team. I think right now without Joe Burrow, that's a tough ask. Like you said, I think unless the Bengals get pressure on Goff and force a couple of turnovers and the Lions hand Cincinnati opportunities, I see the Lions winning as well. I think they've been real solid on special teams the last couple of weeks. Return to punt this week with Khalif Raymond. Kick returns have been better. Like I said, Jack Fox has pinned you deep, and then you're asking Jake Browning in that offense to go 90 yards, 88 yards, whatever. That's going to be tough for the Bengals for sure. And it's nationally televised game. This one was on the schedule. Looked cool. the start of the year, and now you're like, oh man, no Joe Burrow. That kind of sucks from a matchup standpoint, but
Yeah.
I'm sure the Lions in their building in Allen Park aren't really too upset about it.
No, why wouldn't you? Why would you be, right? It's yeah, it should have been an awesome matchup. I still am excited because there are a lot of players in the Lions that I've either followed or we've mentioned on the pod, or obviously the David Montgomery factor, DJ Reader. Hopefully I get to see DJ. It's good. And by the way, I definitely think he's going to be out for revenge. I'm just
go for it.
I think he's definitely going to be out for revenge, but we're certainly going to have you covered here on Locked On Lions and Locked On Bengals. Win, lose, or draw, we're always here. So thank you so much for listening and watching to a special crossover edition here ahead of week 5. And until next time, this has been another Crossover Thursday on the Locked On Podcast Network.